My name is Weldon Wade. I'm an avid ocean advocate, diver, and community activist. Well, for me, what I love doing the most is bringing the community together. I love hosting beach cleanups and lionfish culling events, bringing businesses and the community in general together to unite for a common purpose, which would, in the cases that I'm involved in, is removing trash from the ocean. I mean, the ocean really connects us all, and connecting with people globally has been important to getting my message out there. It's just been a wonderful experience connecting with schools and students to talk about the problems that our ocean faces. And it's great to get together with other ocean heroes to talk about what we're doing and getting our message across. I believe one of the cornerstones to protecting the ocean is human connection and awareness. So the more people are aware of how important the ocean is to our health and our well-being, that's very valuable. Let's try that again. What's going on? What's going on? What is going on, everybody? We are live and direct episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And thank you so much, Jess, for pointing that out. My mic is doing funny things. Shout out to Shore and the MV7, providing you hopefully some crispier audio than before. But yeah, she went a little funny. I pressed a button and something went wrong. I don't know. So I hope everyone's doing good. Let's get into it. So listen, first things first, shout out to all the divers, explorers, instructors, creators, innovators, shop owners, and to you. Hello and welcome to the Wade in the Water live show, episode 7. 7? There. Thank you so much for tuning in. I certainly appreciate your viewership, and I hope that you are well. I am your host, Weldon Wade. I'm a diver, educator, and advocate for ocean sustainability. I'm also a proud PADI ambassador diver, and it's been my job for the last 10 years, but it's my job to get you diving and keep you diving. And this show is to help keep you informed, aware, and educated on what's going on here on the island, across the region, and the world, to share stories and experiences. I'm getting all tangled up in my wires here. Hey, we're burning up while we fly, right? Tonight's topic is going to be all about trash-free seas and Aware Week. So for those of you just tuning in, or you're not in the diving debris scene as much as Jessica and I once again got our very special guest, the wonderful Jessica Lee, backstage waiting to jump on. I'm about to bring her up front. But one of the things we've been doing here in the community for the past number of years, under various different banners, whether it's the Ocean Conservancy or PADI with Aware Week, is typically we'd find a day in September, BC, before COVID, and we get together and do an island-wide marine debris cleanup. And this action was global. And PADI, the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, the largest scuba diving training agency in the world that also now do free diving and mermaiding. I saw mermaiding, Jess, as a like a thing, which is dope. And guys, just before we went live, I let Jess know that I reached out to my friend Adrian Kowali Latham and his beautiful, wonderful wife Julia, who happen to be fire-breathing mermaids, right? And true story, I worked with Adrian not too long ago on a film production where we used his silicone mermaid tail on an actress, and it was a wonderful production. I was safety diver for the whole week, and it was about a shipwrecked priest. He was left stranded on a deserted island, and a mermaid rescued him, and they ended up swimming off to live happily ever after. Still waiting for it to be like released, but it was quite gnarly. The cold times were like 6 a.m. to get that sunrise, and I just remember being very tired. But overall, it was dope. And actually, the actress that flew into Bermuda to be the mermaid was Poppy, the ghost in the Netflix, it premiered on Netflix. It was the house on Haunted Hill House, the Haunting of Hill House. Either way, you guys, I digress. All right. So this show that you're tuned into either live right now from wherever you are in the world and you've decided to hang out with us tonight, going to run this show every Wednesday night, live on Facebook and YouTube with replay available right away. And past episodes just at your fingertips. So the goal is to kind of make this season one of the Wade in the Water late live show, run this for 10 weeks, and then recalibrate and make any adjustments, right? So you're going to see some changes, and one of them being we're going to be moving the show to an earlier time slot. Shout out to Shanae and Brianna Tucker, who may or may not be tuned in live, but young Bree is just 10 years old and she has a hard time tuning in because it's past her bedtime. So I'd love to move this to an earlier time where Brianna and kids and adults who aren't in bed or doing something else at 10 p.m. ADT, you know, you can be doing all kinds of different things, but you're tuned into us. So if you're watching us live or on the replay, thank you so much. Whatever we decide to do, I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like. Either way, it's going to be dope. So strap in and hold on tight. And remember, the quickest way to get on the show or get to the show, on or to it, doesn't matter. Because if you want to jump on now, just let me know through WhatsApp if you've got me there, or slide into my DMs on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, live.weldonwade.com. So there are changes coming to the show. Again, moving away from the late vibe, increase the frequency of the show, and take some of this kit and go outside and on location, because Jess and I and Magic and JD and other guests that we've had on board, like, we talk about going outside and enjoying the turquoise blue green water and the beautiful pink sand and all our wonderful beaches. And it's like, well, I'd rather do the show on location from one of these beaches instead of home in my studio here. So share, like, follow, comment, subscribe. It all the engagement helps the show to grow. Like I mentioned just now, if you'd like to be a guest or jump on impromptu, sponsor, or support in any way, send a note to hello@weldonwade.com. Right here in the Blue Room, broadcasting live from my home right here in Bermuda, where I was born and raised. And out here, we're enjoying like the last few days of summer 2021. So it kicked off June 21st, which seems like a lifetime ago, all things considered. And summer ends September 22nd. And so not a lot of time left. If you remember, because I mean, life's been crazy for everyone. Jess dealt with a hurricane recently that she'll hopefully share her experience with briefly when I bring her forward. But last week we were bracing for Hurricane Larry, which fortunately passed a distance to our east, which is fantastic. I've been in the water a few times since then, and things are taking a while to lay down. The turbidity is improving. So right now it's a little hazy, but it's better than having us to deal with like a direct hit. So we did have some winds, but Larry was a few clicks to our east, which is great. So let's talk about it. So we're here to talk about trash-free seas and Aware Week. And I'd love to bring Jessica on stage. Hi, Jess.
Hey.
Hey, I hear you loud and clear. You look amazing. Happy
Thank you.
7 weeks. You've been like involved since the beginning, which is like, I had to even update. I don't know if you saw, but I updated the graphic I created. I put very very special guest. I gotta and trust me, I'm getting DMs like, bro, make her a co-host. What are you? I'm like, look, I said, let's flesh this out live. I said, look, we'll push through season 1, finish off these 10 episodes, and yeah, guys, Jessica and I will have a meeting and talk about how we can make this official in season 2, which will just be, we'll probably take a short break and come back at you with, again, those revised times. But Jess, you've been having fun with me?
Yes, I love it. Getting to talk about scuba diving every week is my jam. So
yeah. Well, I mean, this is what we do. We dabble in different things, but diving has brought us together. Jeff, real quick, let's just get the formalities out of the way, because there are probably some people tuning in that are seeing me for the first time, and I've done the monologue, so they kind of have an idea of what I'm up to. But for those people that are watching this live or on the replay that have no idea who you are, please give us an introduction.
Yeah, my name is Jess, and I am born and raised in Texas, and I am a PADI Master Scuba Diver Trainer. So I get to teach people how to scuba dive all the way from open water and Discover Scuba all the way up to Dive Master. I get to teach a whole bunch of really fun specialties, and my background is in marine biology. So I have my degree in marine biology, and I was a research associate for many years and scientific diver. And then I decided to start my own business, Diving with Jess. So we focus on eco-conscious diving. And travel. So it's been a fun time, and I've loved coming out and getting to share scuba diving with you guys wherever you are in the world.
That's cool. Thank you so much, Jess. I love that introduction. I get to learn little new pieces. I know sometimes you've said this before, but every time I hear you introduce yourself, I always learn something new and interesting. So I can't wait till we have a Weldon and Jess sort of fireside chat and just have a super casual conversation about how we met aboard the MV Fling
Yes.
as part of that NOAA expedition. And that was what really brought us together. And boom, thanks to the internet, powered by Bermuda International, we're able to have this show and kind of have some fun with it. Before we dive into some stuff that I've prepared just maybe an hour ago, because, I just building up while I fly. So I kind of don't always know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, Jess, what do you want to talk about? She's like, well, let's talk about like a rare week again, because there's so much more to cover. Which, we can talk about why we do what we do and why protecting the ocean is so important and why keeping trash out of the ocean is important too. But I'd love to shout out to Evelyn Bookless. Her last name is really Bookless. She wrote this amazing book, Captain Green and the Plastic Scene. And it's a kid, he's a superhero, and he's saving ocean creatures from plastic in the ocean. So I'm going to kind of highlight this a couple times throughout our chat, but it's illustrated really, really well. She's got a bunch of illustrations of debris that are in the ocean, and then she's just saving. Sorry, Captain Green is saving ocean animals from the perils of plastic pollution. So it's a great book. She sent it to me. I've had it now for a couple of months, and it's really, really awesome. And it just speaks to what we're, as a community, doing later on this month with Patty's Aware Week. What I'd love to do is run a quick, I think it's about a minute. I showed it last week. It's the Patty Aware Week 2021 little ad. So let's run that right now. Patty Aware Week. We will be diving for debris. So, Jess, what do you have planned for Aware Week where you are in Texas?
Oh, we've got some good stuff planned. I'm
Talk
so
about it.
excited for Aware Week. I've been looking forward to it all year. So we're kicking it off with a beach cleanup this Saturday, which is fantastic because, like you mentioned earlier, we just had Hurricane Nicholas come through. It was a tropical storm. It became a hurricane, and he just came through Monday night.
I was
made
worried
some
about
waves.
you. Yeah, talk about that because our
Yeah.
viewership in Bermuda and certainly, I mean, not just Bermuda and Texas susceptible to storms, but certainly the viewership in Bermuda knows all too well how disruptive hurricanes can be. So yeah, tell us what it's like to have gone through Nicholas just Monday, like 2 nights ago.
Yeah, it's been a little wacky. Yeah, so this Monday and Tuesday, we had a lot of rain and some localized flooding. Our roads get kind of backed up, especially closer to Galveston. So Galveston Bay Complex is a huge bay complex. We're really lucky to live that close to a beautiful natural resource like Galveston Bay. But the problem is tides affect our drainage. So whenever it's high tide and then you have all this rain coming down, it can really cause backup streets and that type of thing when it comes to flooding. So on
Right,
top of
right.
storm surge, so obviously there's the initial impact of the storm surge, but then you also have to worry about the water that's trying to drain out if it's going into the bay, if the bay is backing up. So sometimes in Galveston, it'll actually get hit from both sides, which is what actually happened in Ike. Is we got hit from both sides. We got the storm surge from the front, and then the bay what came and flooded from the backside of the island. Excuse me,
Ouch.
sorry guys. And but yeah, so this Nicholas was not near as bad. It wasn't anything like Ike or Harvey. So he came and bopped around, came up the Texas coast, and oh, hi Jess. I'm so
Jess is
glad
on
you're
the
here.
live. Hi, Jessica.
Oh, fantastic. We're just gonna get all the Jessicas together. We're gonna take over Weldon's show.
Hey, I'm happy to go behind the scenes, you guys. Like, trust me, I'm easy to do all the tech stuff behind. I'm happy to help produce, but hi,
There
Jess.
we go,
Great to see
producer Weldon.
you.
But yeah, so we fared pretty well. We got some pretty high winds and some rain. Um, Threw some stuff around, and some of the coastal towns got hit a little bit harder. We still have a lot of people here in Texas who are without power. My family lives about an hour away from me, and they still don't have power. They haven't had power since Monday night. So it's a widespread problem. I'm lucky, obviously, I have electricity, so I'm very fortunate to have electricity and air conditioning right now. So very thankful for that. So but yeah, it was got loud, got a little rowdy here for a little bit, but through some different, some of our trees are down in the area, that type of thing. So
But as a result of Nicholas, now there's even more debris and different things uh,
yes,
on the coastline and in the ocean that divers can certainly collect and dispose
e-
of properly.
exactly. So that's going to be perfect for this weekend. It's kind of one of those now more than ever. It's always great to have a beach cleanup, but having a beach cleanup in a coastal area after storm is always so important because it's kind of helping people in that. And you guys, I'm sure in Bermuda, are so familiar with this that rebuild phase. So the storm comes through, we team up, we help each other. We get through it, and then afterwards, we're in that helping out neighbors, cleaning up, fixing things. So it brings people together, and you get to see the really awesome side of humanity of neighbors helping neighbors. So we're very fortunate in Texas, in Louisiana. We try to help each other out whenever we both have had our fair share of storms, and it's really a beautiful thing to see them coming over to help us and us going over there to help them.
Very powerful. Certainly, um, like bringing community together, and even though in contrast, Bermuda is certainly an island in the middle of the Atlantic, 21 square miles, 63,000 people. Yeah, we find that during these storms, before the storm, and certainly during and after, is when you find the community cohesion at its best. In fact. When I grew up at my grandmother's house in St. George on the east end of the island, it was amazing because my uncle Calvin, he's a welder, so all this arc welding equipment is essentially a generator. So whenever would there be a storm and we'd lose power in the neighborhood, Calvin would have all of his arc welding equipment outside and start it up and run extension cords to all the neighbors' houses so that they can at least power their refrigerators and essential appliances. And that was when I was a kid. Now that I'm older, I happen to live in a different house in the city that's way closer to the electric company, but there's still that sense of community and camaraderie, whether it's with the Bermuda Regiment and we do have an army in Bermuda. We tend to really lean mostly into disaster relief, not so much like rioting and crowd control, and certainly we're not trained to take lives, and that's not what we're talking about. But using leveraging or taking advantage of the fact that this is a natural disaster, trying to mitigate that as much as we can before the storm, and then after the storm, getting out there and helping our neighbors to remove debris. And like Nicholas, Larry, these names are funny. Just thinking about my uncle Larry that unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but yeah, Larry certainly washed up a lot of debris. So we have I mean, even today, lots of debris still washing up, and there's a lot of work for those on the shoreline picking up trash and stuff. Speaking to that, I want to share a video. So I hinted this on Instagram, you guys. I put up a picture of it and I said I'm going to talk about it. So I went to my favorite beach, John Smith's Bay. So when you come to Bermuda, Jess, we'll definitely go to John Smith's Bay. It's my favorite bay because it is on Bermuda's South Shore, but the bay itself doesn't face south. It kind of turns a little bit, but the beach is great. The reef is super close to the beach. It's amazing. Like I could go on all night about John Smith's Bay, but then there's a grill on top of the hill that makes this amazing sandwich. It's the surfing bird. The guy grills the marinated chicken right there, and he put like onions, green peppers. Ugh, it's so good. But I went to John Smith's Bay, and this is what I saw. Let me cue the video. I'm gonna take away that banner, and I'm gonna cue this video. Check this out. So I've unmuted the mic with this playing. I wanted to get our heads up in this as well, and it's not letting me do that, but I'll cut this off. Let me cut this. So, oh, that's not what I want. Very thick, heavy, obviously wet ship's rope. That's what I would assume is used for a very large ship's anchor. They would have the anchor and then chain and then rope. And despite seeing three friends on the beach enjoying themselves, and I grabbed them and I was like, guys, I don't think we're going to be able to get this up past the high tide mark, but let's try. And shout out to my buddy Viren. He was there and he had two friends. And I mean, it's funny because when I shot that video, I didn't have them with me just yet, but I just went there to study it. It's not the first time I've had to recover like rope like that out of the ocean, but I was like, this is gonna be heavy. And we tried, and it was just like, no, we're not gonna be able to get this. So typically, it's about like getting about 12 people there to help drag it up, or use a battery operated recipo saw to cut it in manageable pieces. So yeah, these cleanups are dope. You can show up with your onion sack and your gardening gloves, but then from time to time you will find debris that is just a bit too difficult for even a small army to get out of the ocean. Now, what is going to happen is right now that rope is obviously it's floating. It's washing up on the beach, and it may get stuck on the beach as the tide does its thing. But ultimately, if it does get back out into the ocean, it'll sink at some point and cover coral probably. So it's much better to manage that now while it's accessible before it goes into the ocean and sinks down to 100 feet and smothers coral, and then it's hard, it's even more difficult to get out there. So all kinds of things enter the ocean and cause damage. And I've mentioned this before, Jess, but most of the trash that I find on beaches, just like this thing that I just showed, is the long range foreign debris or debris that's from the industrialized fishing or shipping industry. And I don't want to like poke a finger at someone, but someone on Facebook super like drilled into me this whole like, when there's debris we should fine the locals, or increase enforcement and increase the amount, the cost of what fines. And I'm just like, well, that rope, who are we going to fine for that? And if 70% of the trash that I pick up is from away, who are we going to levy fines against? We don't know the origin of the debris. Just it's impossible to figure that out, right? Unless it's, I mean, even if it's branded. I remember finding a cup from Sandals Negril, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
do I call Sandals and my name is Weldon, I'm in Bermuda, and I found one of your cups, I'm gonna send somebody and find you. It's like it's tough. So yeah, there's quite a bit to speak to, but what I want to do is look over at the comments. Magic is in the house.
Magic.
I think I've seen that previously when diving at John Smith's Bay. Magic, I know there's a reef bit. I mean, I used to dive John Smith's Bay back in the day, like weekly. So I know the place like the back of my hand. Like, at least I think I do. Yeah, there was like a balmy that was completely covered in net, and it was like ingrained in it. And we ended up using it. At least the guides that I used to work with and train, we'd use that as like a marker. Like, okay, look for the reef with the net on it, and oh, there it is. And then we'd be able to figure out where we're going. It became a waypoint marker. That rope there, Magic, I don't know, that rope wasn't seasoned. Yeah, a lot of the debris that I find, you can tell it's been in the ocean for a really long time, because that's what we call seasoned. It's got like the barnacles, bite marks, algae, and what's really cool, not cool, but tongue-in-cheek cool, I guess. When you're out in the deep ocean, and you see some floating debris, whether it's rope or containers and whatnot, and you jump in and you look underneath, there's this like floating ecosystem of all kinds of critters. And sometimes it's actually heartbreaking, in a sense, to remove the debris. And, you lift it, you're on your boat, you lean over, you lift up the container, and you pull out the rope. There's crabs all in the rope, and they're, jumping for their lives. And then there's fish that are, in most cases, what I've seen is reef fish, that have called this floating mass home. And when you take it out of the ocean, now they're just like in the deep water, right? They're in 100 fathoms of ocean, and they're probably I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but they're out in the open. They don't have any protection, and they got to make it to the bottom of the ocean quite quickly. Otherwise, they're just like a free meal. So, Magic, shout out to you, and thank you so much for jumping on last week's live.
So there's actually a term for that, Weldon.
Yeah, that's because I'm not the scientist, or I'm just like the IT guy turned wannabe whatever, right? But no, Jess, let's educate us on her.
Yeah, so those are what we call FADs, so fish aggregation devices. So they're really commonly used, some either in that case unintentionally or intentionally, where fishermen or in different countries, different areas, they'll actually put out, sometimes it's something as simple as like a buoy, or it is, they'll actually have like these cool floats that they put out on purpose to help aggregate fish. So the fishing community will use them as well. And so, but it cracked me up. I think it was Cayman. And at the airport, they had these like big, burly, strong men who worked at airport. I think they were maybe some sort of security, and their shirt said FAD on them. And I don't know what it stood for as far as the airport went, but in my mind, all I could think of was fish aggregation device. And I was like, oh man, I'm a fish nerd. And I was like, I don't think they would do well if we tossed them in the ocean and the fish come around. I don't think they'd like it too much, but that's where my brain went. But yeah, so you were picking up FADs. Yep.
That's cool. That's cool. Jessica Kuhn, if you're still on the live, Jess, let us know where you're from and what you're up to and what brings you to the Wade in the Water live show with me and Jess. We've never met, so I don't know how you found the show. So, and if you're not, you know what's happening. You got an inside thing.
Yeah. Me and Jess go way back. She's I'm everyone else's Jess. She's my Jess. So
okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Now, I have to say this because if anyone sees this and they kind of know what I'm up to, they're going to be like, why didn't Weldon speak to that? But with my work with the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program, just a few weeks ago, we put out 2 deep sea FADs. Okay. Just fixed FADs, 2 different sides of the island in very, very deep water as part of a project that we're working on. It's really a proof of concept. But Bermuda, up until that point, did not have any fish aggregation devices at all. Now, we did work with a wonderful gentleman from another island who, Antigua. And yeah, he was talking about, they have many FADs. Some of them are fixed, some of them are floating, some of them are like homemade, some of them are commercial. So the ones that we have, the 2 that we have in Bermuda's deep ocean are what I would consider high-end professional commercial level FADs. And they're built to spec, and we'll see how they work out. So yeah,
that'd be cool to see what shows up for sure. It was a really good way whenever we were thanks,
Jess, thank you so much for being on the live. And I'm also a big fan of Diving with Jess, and I can certainly say that Magic, JD, and the growing Bermuda family that's getting to learn about the show and learn about Jess, and figuring out that I think Weldon's going to have Jess on every show he can possibly have. So that's pretty dope. And Jess, or Jessica Kuhn, I want to ask my Jess. Does Jessica Kuhn have a marine ocean background or no?
She is actually a chef. So she cooks the fish. Yes. I catch them. She cooks them. She's fantastic. So
all right. So I would guess that Jessica Kuhn has cooked lionfish before.
I don't know if she has. I need to bring her some next time I go catch it. I need to bring her some.
let's see if again I can't see, and apologies you guys, I can't see who's tuned into the live. StreamYard is pushing this to three different destinations, and it's not really pulling all the comments in, but I think Jess is tuned in via YouTube. So Jessica Kuhn, if you are still on the live, have you cooked and eaten lionfish just yet?
I'm
Let us
interested
know.
to hear the
Let
answer.
us know, and I'll share that. And if you're cool, I'm even happy to pull you into the live, even if you want. It's this is how we do it out here. It's boom, send you the link, you jump on, and you tell us your story. So be ready, yeah. And that's for all of you guys that want to be on the live. And while the viewership is growing, live it is quite late. Here in Bermuda, and the replay gets a lot of traction too. So we try to keep it nice. Now, oh wait, oh I got an answer. Haven't cooked it yet.
We'll have to
Okay.
change that. We'll have to change that.
We'll have to figure that out. There's not a whole lot I can do to help with that. Um,
When you come out and visit, we'll go hunt the
yeah.
lionfish. We'll have her pick
Oh,
it up for us.
oh boy. We're gonna have to do that soon then.
My whenever you come, the tour of Houston is going to be take a little bit longer than the tour of Bermuda. Well, maybe not, because we're gonna have so many cool spots to hit up in Bermuda. But yeah, we're a little bit more spread out here in Houston. It's going to take a
Okay.
hot minute to get around.
We'll figure it out. We'll have to figure it out. Yeah, I might bring some friends actually. I think Magic and JD will be
Yeah,
keen to
bring the
hop over.
crew.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on right now. Bermuda's getting hot, with respect to a little fourth wave action. So it's like, look, let's get out of here. So I'll ping Magic and see if we can find a. I mean, yeah, getting there by boat would be inexpensive. It would just take us a really long. I was thinking about fueling up my boat and see if we can make it over to like get around, but forget that. New plan. So real quick, you guys. Switching gears real quick. I do have and this I've never done this before. I have a very quick presentation that I want to share with you. I happen to be a Five Gyres ambassador as well. Five Gyres is organization that I've been connected with a long time, and it just speaks to the gyres in the global ocean where it's swirling and swirling, and essentially plastics soup in these gyres. And Marcus Samuelson, no, not Marcus Samuelson, that's a chef. Marcus Erickson. And his partner Anna Cummins started Five Gyres years ago. They've been to Bermuda. They sailed here years ago, and I believe their visit to Bermuda was the catalyst to starting off the Bermuda Marine Debris Task Force, which is a coalition organization here that's really at the forefront of sorting out the ocean plastics bit. So each organization and entity does its own work, and then we come together quite often, at least 4 or 5 times a year, to talk about the work that we're doing in the community, whether it's citizen science or actual science, and doing samples of the beaches and stuff. But before I jump into that, Jess, in terms of the science side of the plastic pollution problem and the trash in our seas, are you involved in any direct science, whether it's like doing like research on nurdles or doing like brand auditing or like beach surveys? What's the sciencey side that you're working on in addition to the actual picking up of the trash? If you can speak to that.
Yeah, so I'm not directly working on any plastic related projects, but in the past, I did a lot of ichthyoplankton work. So all the really little bitty larval fish, and we used to tow nets out in the Gulf of Mexico. And when we were doing that, we would we had to sort through, like hand sort through these samples. So we were pulling out the fish from all of the little invertebrates and stuff like that, and so that way we could later on identify them, and both visually and genetically. But when we were doing that, we would see all sorts of different plastics. And actually, some of the people at the university have gone through and pulled those out and looked at those. There's also some really cool research going on in one of the invertebrate labs that studies oysters. So they are looking at, because oysters are filter feeders, and you don't really think, you're like, oh, well, that's so small. And it's just like tiny little bit of water, and that's, they're not going to be getting plastics. They are. So we have to think about when we're eating our foods, it's not just, oh, it started off at the bottom of the food chain, and the like the plastic compounds got in the systems and worked their way up, which is something to think about. But the actual physical plastic is getting into some of these oysters. So they're seeing like little small, they have these really cool, they digest them, and then they put it on this cool
Oh,
filter, and you can actually see like the threads from like the little tiny threads that are from fishing line or from fabrics, that are getting like trapped in oysters. So it's a I'm really excited to see how that project comes out and what the end results are. But they actually have a cool Instagram page as well that I follow.
okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's I try to stay, optimistic, or like positive with sharing this information, because it is quite tough at times when you think how beneficial plastic as a substance is to us.
Mhm.
Certainly, we can lean heavily in on the medical side of things. Um, Heavily, right? It's needed. um and I tend to not look at plastic as a material as the enemy in of itself. It's really that single use plastic that I think we lean into the hardest. Certainly, if you're using a fork or a bottle of water or a spoon that is made out of plastic, use it for 2 minutes and then you throw it away. It's sobering to think that the spoon you used 10 years ago still exists in some form or another. Even 20 years ago, it still exists in some form or another, breaking down or up, depending on how you look at it, into smaller and smaller pieces, never ever um, like turning, like evaporating into nothing, right? So it's and even like the fabrics industry is getting quite a bit of flack these days with all the different clothing that's made out of different derivatives of plastic, and then your dryer, the lint, and then micro beads another thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to share a presentation that I have access to as a Five Gyres ambassador. It speaks to the global health crisis of plastic pollution through science, education, and adventure. Now, it's a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to fly through it, you guys, because that's not, I want to keep this cool. I don't want to be like official, but I want to have the slide up with Jessica and I up as well. And then Jessica and I can sort of comment as we go through this together. I've seen this before. Jessica has not, but it'll be dope. But I'm going to see how this goes. Again, guys, we're building this while we fly. So I have to change the resolution of my screens and stuff. I have to do some stuff. So here we go. Hey, and let's get rid of the banner. Hey, now we're talking. All right. So the mission of Five Gyres is to empower action against the global health crisis of plastic pollution through science, education, and adventure. Let's see how this goes. Boom. Yeah. So clearly, we have a big problem, and we need your help. And that's where this ties into Aware Week and diving against debris, and giving divers something to do. We talked about diving with a purpose, and certainly underwater sightseeing is dope. Not gonna take away from that. I did most of my diving, and to this day, I still do a lot of my diving where it's just me, my dive buddy, my GoPro, and I'm just there to enjoy whatever nature decides to come at me. But from time to time, especially if I'm at somewhere new and it's a lot of debris everywhere, I'll take an onion sack similar to kind of this one from Patty and fill it up as I'm going along. But yeah, certainly diving with for purpose, debris in the ocean, trying to push for trash-free seas, using our skills and resources and our investment in this diving world gives us unique eyes and access to the trash that does not float. So every year we send about 8 million tons of plastic into the ocean, unfortunately. It's like dumping a garbage truck full onto the sea every single minute. It's why we find places like this, and this is an isolated island. Nobody even lives here, but it's thousands of miles from any place inhabited by humans, yet it's covered in our plastic trash. And that's why scientists now predict that if we don't do anything about it by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So Five Gyres is the organization that I'm an ambassador for, and this is sort of what they're named after, these gyres, right? So we've got the North Pacific Gyre, the North Atlantic Gyre, the South Pacific Gyre, the South Atlantic Gyre, and the Indian Ocean Gyre, and Bermuda is right on the fringe of that North Atlantic Gyre. So that's why I've said tonight and before that so much of the debris that washes up on our shores is that long-range foreign debris. Case in point are these black plastic octopus pods. So I mentioned this before. I said, yeah, these are pots, plastic pots that are used off of West Africa that are in this lattice, and people use them to harvest octopus. Now, I haven't seen how that actually is done. I just know that these things are stacked together and strapped together underwater. They used to be made out of porcelain, which was a lot more, I guess, eco-friendly. But now they're made out of plastic. And people were saying, well, how can an octopus pot end up in Bermuda? Well, if you imagine the gyre swirling around clockwise, similar to the track that our hurricanes seem to take. They kind of tend to come out of West Africa and come along the Caribbean and go into the Gulf Stream and come up around. It's kind of, when you look at the tracks, it's kind of weird. But either way, Five Gyres has been studying this particular problem for over a decade, sailing into the middle of all five of these gyres, um, which are these currents in the ocean. And this is where the Great Pacific Garbage Patch came around. It's this mythical island that's supposed to be the size of Texas or two Texases. This is in the notes, Jess. I didn't add this in. But shout out to Jess in Texas.
It's the best unit of measure.
Yeah. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but Five Gyres have been there, and they've seen firsthand that plastics in the ocean aren't contained in one place. There are plastics that move in and out of these currents, but that's not the extent of the problem. So their studies at Five Gyres show that the plastic in the ocean never really biodegrades. And what I mentioned earlier about that plastic fork we used 10, 20 years ago, it never actually breaks down, but plastic does break up into smaller and smaller pieces that become microplastics. So when small organisms and fish eat these microplastics and they are then eaten by larger animals, those contaminants can work their way up the food chain to us. So fish eat the little pellets, fish eat fish, and bigger fish eat those fish, and then we consume that fish. So just mentioned oysters and finding small pieces of plastic fabric inside of the oysters because those are filter feeders. Yeah, if we eat that oyster, we're getting that plastic that will just, what's the term?
Bioaccumulate.
Bioaccumulate. So the toxins, right, will bioaccumulate and cause issues for us, which are no good. This is Dr. Sarah Jean Royer. She set out to measure the methane gas coming from biological activity in seawater and unexpectedly discovered that the plastic bottles holding the samples were a bigger source of this powerful warming molecule than the bugs in the water. The most widely used plastic, the stuff used to make shopping bags, is the one that produces the greatest amount of these warming gases, or methane and ethylene, when exposed to sunlight. I'll never forget, I was in the Bermuda Regiment, and a local bottle company dropped off cases of bottled water, and we left those bottles, not intentionally, in the sun for about 10 days. Not like out in the sun, just sat outside where it got direct sunlight for an extended amount of time. When we opened up those bottles, when it was time to consume them, the water tasted like it didn't taste like water at all. And what had happened was the sun caused chemicals in the plastic to leach into the water and poison the water, essentially. So that's a bit scary. And yeah, we could talk about like bottled water and that stuff like that, like at length. It's quite a gnarly situation. So in 2012, the Five Gyres research team in the Great Lakes worked with SUNY Fredonia to discover that plastic microbeads found in exfoliating scrubs, toothpaste, and even cleaning products were polluting the water. So microbeads, or these plastic microbeads, were once upon a time super popular in cosmetics, toothpaste, facial scrubs. I remember getting something for Christmas once with these, plastic beads. So there was a push here, at least. I don't know if microbeads where you are, Jess, was like highlighted as being a bad thing, but yeah, they were kind of, there it is, right? Some Neutrogena scrub. So they used this study to convince the huge companies like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, and L'Oreal to phase out these plastic microbeads that are in these scrubs, which is pretty gnarly. Shout out to President Obama, because this whole plastic in the cosmetics bit became a movement, which accumulated when former President Obama signed the Microbead Free Waters Act of 2015. So that's been a few years now, which made them illegal. Now, even though they're illegal, the products that were made before this was passed are still out there. I think in my bathroom upstairs, in my old medicine cabinet, I do have still a thing of Neutrogena face scrub that I just never use. And I believe the small little blue balls that are inside of that, I mean, it's not like sea salt or anything. It's definitely plastic. So some of that stuff still exists, unfortunately. Um, yeah, the Microbead Free Waters Act. So there's a couple slides as well, you guys, about bioplastic and a bit of myth and hype around bioplastics and how we were pushed as a community to do a lot of things. Recycling, which the more I look into it, seems to be a bit of a myth. Um, Bioplastics that are set, we were told that they would break down and dissolve into nothing as long as they were put into compost. We learned that they had to be industrialized compost facilities, which we don't have in Bermuda. So I'm just going to skip through these slides and wrap this up. But yeah, it talks about recycling and the big business of bottling things in plastic. I mean, we used to get bottles of mineral back in the day. I was born in the 70s, and I remember getting soda in glass. And it was great because we take our mineral bottles back and get them refilled. It was awesome. But we made this move to plastic. So I encourage you, if you're interested in this stuff, happy to reach out to me. I'm happy to do a more formal presentation. But yeah, do your own research and look it up. It's quite interesting how this industry has evolved over time, and do a little bit of myth busting on your own. Like, don't listen to me. Do your own research. It's all out there at your fingertips, and just see what's really going on out there. Um, all the plastic is numbered, and they got a bunch of slides here, and what's really recycled, what's not. It's so much more inexpensive to craft something out of virgin plastics. Now, Jess, you said you're near
Yeah, the petrochemical industry.
petrochemical industry. Yeah,
Mhm.
where they make the nurdles that go to the facilities and they get made into things that we buy.
Yeah, we have a
Ah,
lot of like polyethylene,
right.
polypropylene, all of the different polymers in the area. There's a lot of plants that make those.
Yeah, making the nurdles. So I'm going to end on this slide. Actually, this is the second to last slide. It just talks about single-use plastics, and this is what I feel is definitely enemy number one. Although there's so many different things that we can jump into, but for the purpose of this topic, for the purpose of Aware Week, yeah, single-use plastics are definitely not good. So whether you switch to metal or bamboo or reusing these as much as you can, that's fantastic. We Bermuda does have a single-use plastics ban that's coming into effect very soon, which is quite exciting. Um, and I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'm certainly on the side of let's do it. I'm just interested to see how it comes to fruition. I have to mention my friend Crystal Ambrose, who is the founder of the Bahamas Plastic Movement. She's doing some really amazing work. Look her up online. They've just done so much transformative work in the Bahamas to bring this to the forefront. So Bermuda, we're doing work, but we're a little bit behind. So shout out to my minister. Hopefully, we can push this through and get that done. Move that out the way. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight by way of the Five Gyres presentation. Hope that wasn't too much of a bore. For any of you guys that are on the live, and Jess was, circling back to lionfish, yeah, we'll get out there and catch some and cook some. But for any of you that are locked into the live, if you have any questions for Jess and I, please pop it in the chat. It'd be wonderful to have a conversation with you. You don't have to jump on the live call itself, because I know people, and not everyone wants to be on camera, not everyone's prepared with the good lighting and the collared shirt. So shout out to Adrian encouraging me to go back to a collared shirt. Salute. Um, yeah, Jess. Yeah, my pleasure. It's like I'm sure Jessica and I are sitting on so much information. But this platform, it exists to share these stories and just inform and educate in a very fun, open, and honest way. Um, but what I wanted to also ask my Jessica about is some of the questions I remember asking last week. I was really curious because I got a couple of questions on my WhatsApp yesterday. Was what's the most popular item that you find when doing these cleanups in Texas?
So it's a combination. So we talked about it a little bit last time. There's a lot of cigarette butts. There's a lot of the broken down hard plastics, like those number 6 plastics that aren't recyclable, or at least not commonly. I don't know if they're not recyclable at all, but they're not recyclable in most areas, most like city in my area, at least citywide recycling programs, they're on the list of things that you can't put in. And so, but those really hard, like the hard broken down. Like the spoons, forks, that type of thing, a lot of to-go containers. The top clear part will be the type of plastic that you can recycle, but that black bottom part will not. And so it has to go in the trash, not in the recycle. And a lot of I don't know if you guys have, well, they might wash up there, but like the big 55-gallon drums, those big plastic drums that they put chemical storage. They use them for like the syrups that go in sodas.
Oh
So
yeah.
we actually create rain barrels out of them. So there is a
Mm,
nonprofit in this area that has rain barrel workshops, which is really cool. And so they get these for free from the soda companies after they've used them, and you clean them out and you hook them up to your rain gutters, and that way you can actually collect the rainwater and use it for gardening, that type of thing. You can't drink it; it's not safe to drink,
right.
but
Right.
don't do that. But it's a great way to use it. But the problem with those is, again, it's that really hard, brittle plastic, and I've seen it even with the one that I have at my house. Over time, obviously, it's outside all day, and over time, that plastic, about being in the sun, it gets broken down by the UV, and it becomes hard and brittle. And I've seen them wash up on the beach whenever I've been doing a cleanup, and you'll see when it's been like sheared in half and it's got the jagged edges, and you go to pick it up, like, oh, I'm going to go put this in the dumpster, and it just falls apart in your hands, and it breaks into these little pieces, kind of like the picture that you showed with those little small fragments. So that's this huge drum that you think like, oh no, that, I mean, we don't have to worry about microplastics from that. Well, then, you go to and you just touch it, and it breaks apart in your hands, and you have all these little pieces of plastic, which then can get ground down and can get even smaller over time. So it's that we see stuff like that because there's, again, a lot of the commercial shipping industry here. So those types of containers are commonly used, and they'll just wash up in various states of degradation. So it's something to think about. And then, the kind of the non-washed up trash, so like the beachgoer trash, that type of stuff that we talked about
Okay.
last time. So beer cans and soda cans and that type of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, the cigarette butts is really important to talk about too, because it definitely has so much toxic stuff in it, and it looks like food to a lot of things. So like local shorebirds, that type of stuff. So whenever people flick the butts instead of disposing of them properly, and they'll be and they float. So I in those ichthyoplankton samples I was telling you about, we've actually been towing out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico with no land in sight, no other boats around, and we would get the cigarette filters in our samples, and once they get in there and they're all soggy and they just fall apart and everything on the inside, it just like completely pollutes your sample, but it's also doing that to your ocean too. So yeah,
Wow.
but that's why
Yeah.
it's so great. You were talking about the microbeads. So those are some plastics, the pollution that you're not going to see, right? So, my eyes are good, but they're not that good. I'm not going to be able to see microplastics or those little tiny microbeads. But kind of thinking about switching products over, what are some things you can swap out? So going for, if you need to exfoliate, going for something that's made out of like a sugar scrub, a salt scrub, or they also have like pit fruit. So peaches and other pit fruits, they'll grind up those pits
Oh
and
yeah.
put them into scrubs. So that way you're using like a natural, and same thing with the salt and the sugar, like that's going to break down, that's not going to pollute. Um, and a lot of times you can make those from scratch yourself. So then that way you can use them. Like if you have a glass jar that's left over from the jam you ate and it's all done and you were just going to recycle it maybe or get rid of it, you can reuse it instead. So it's one of those things, thinking about, we always say reduce, reuse, recycle, but I always think we have to think about that order too. So what can I reduce? What can
Yeah.
I just
For
not
sure.
even purchase or have? and then what can I reuse, and then the very last step, because like you said, not everything that goes to the recycle actually gets recycled. Someone actually has to then take that and turn it into something new, and not all of that actually is going to get used. So just because you put it in the bin doesn't mean it's actually going to get a second life. And
Yeah.
plastics break down. So if I have a plastic bottle, it doesn't get turned back into a plastic bottle. So whenever you go through that recycle process, it actually breaks down the plastics each time. So I can't remember
Mm.
which way the numbers go, but I and correct me if I'm wrong, internet
Right.
users, but it's one of those, like if it was a 5, I can't remember if it goes up or down, but whenever it becomes a reused piece of plastic, it gets moved down to like the next level. So
Okay.
it's not the
Yeah,
same.
that's something to think about. I haven't really thought about. You've got a number 5 piece of plastic, and you've got the facilities to recycle that. What can it become? What can it not become? Um, but it somewhat segues to a couple of questions. We've got Jessica with a question. We've got Mr. Antoine Lightborn. Shout out to you, sir. Wonderful to have you on the live. If you have any questions, please feel free. But we've also got a question from Elizabeth Della. Oh, now here's the thing. I'm in Bermuda, and we have our ways of disposing of our waste, or managing our waste. Jess is in Texas, which has a different way, I'm sure, of dealing with waste management. So I'm going to kind of, yeah, let's just go with it. So Jessica asks, what are some of the things that we as individuals can do? And this speaks to more or less what you just hinted on. The typical, what we used to say, reduce, reuse, recycle. Another R that I've seen is refuse, and
Mhm.
another R I've seen is rot. Yeah, which speaks to, I guess, the composing movement, which I was gonna start up, but I kind of never got the little drum thing going. I think as individuals, Jess, it's just valuable to be aware of what's going on, and recognizing that every move matters. Um, and again, it really depends where you are, because certain things are a lot easier in other places and are difficult. So it's great, not to necessarily do a deep dive, but have an holistic understanding of your waste stream and where things go and how it's managed. Um, and that might even be a bit deep for many, but for me, I'm very conscious of when I purchase something, it tends to be in bulk. I recognize that in Bermuda we only recycle tin, aluminum, and glass. We subscribed to a waste to energy solution about 30 years ago. So unfortunately, because we've learned now through watching documentaries and doing research that burning plastics creates dioxins, which is not good for the environment. But that's what we have here. So we'll take anything that we don't recycle and we'll burn it. And again, it's not great, but that's what we have. We did landfill and we still do. Um, but incineration is what we have right now. So I'm really conscious of, recognizing, okay, cool, let me make sure I buy in bulk. Avoid bottled water is something I do religiously. I'm happy to drink my tap water here. It's clean, it's filtered. I've got this commercial grade filtration system on my home. Um, and then, yeah, just be conscious of how you shop. Whether it's clothing, your food, know where your food comes from. Know what your materials that you put on your skin, not just your clothes, but all the different, if you moisturize, your toothpaste and your makeup. Just learn where all that stuff comes from and what the ingredients are, and what you're putting in and on your body is super important too. So that's would be my advice. Jess, if you want to jump on that one.
Yeah, I think the refuse is so important because a lot of times it's easy to forget, but once you get it in your mind, you start seeing these little spots in your life where you can start making those changes. And it's great because they can be small at first and then it can kind of snowball in a good way. So whether it comes from refusing the plastic bags at the grocery store, bring your own bags, or just the other day I was at the store and I didn't have a reusable bag on me, but I bought like 3 things. I could fit them in my hands. I was walking 10 steps to my
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
and they asked like, do you want a bag? And I love that there are a lot of places they're getting better about asking, because I feel like if you ask someone, they're more likely to say like, oh no, I don't need a straw, oh no, I don't need a bag. But it's just that automatic of just like, hey, handing it to you or handing you the
Yep.
20 packets of ketchup or whatever it is,
I
wherever you're at,
know.
you know, and that is going to, sometimes they don't even get used. They just go straight into the trash. So getting into that mindset of refusing politely,
Yeah.
of, you know, like, oh, hey, I don't, like telling someone before they bring you your drink that you don't want a straw. Because I mean, once it's at the table, a lot of times, even if it's in a wrapper, a lot of times they don't put it back. They'll throw it away for like safety reasons. So kind of being, just getting into those little habits. So whenever it comes to refusing, and then yeah, like you talked about, making those switches, thinking about where you're getting stuff. So buying things more locally. So for us here in Texas, it's very easy to get things from all over the world. We're very lucky. We have really fast shipping. So it's super easy to be like, oh, well, this product is a whole lot cheaper. So I'm going to get this. And it's shipping from like way across the world, where if you know you take a little bit of time and you look for something that is maybe a little bit more local, not only are you reducing, you know, maybe you found something that's a little bit more eco-friendly, but you have to think about the you know, the CO2 that's released in all the
Oh
shipping.
yeah.
So
Oh
if I'm
yeah.
having to get something, and I know for you in Bermuda it's not the same because things have to get to you no matter where they're coming from, unless there's something that you're able to create there. So that's a different situation. But for me, there's stuff that is creative here, that I can easily purchase versus getting something that had to ship from across the world to get to me. So kind of thinking about like how, not just what it is, but how it got there, and just those little easy things. Buying stuff that is in solid form versus liquid form weighs a lot less. So it's going to take up less space. If it's something that doesn't already have water added to it, it's going to take up
That's
less
super
space. It's going to
powerful.
weigh
Yeah.
less. And then you can just add your water at home. So whether it is moving from like a liquid detergent to a solid detergent, like a
Hmm.
powder, or getting some, a lot of people have switched over to like shampoo bars and conditioner bars versus having the liquids. So instead of having this big plastic, so not only did you get rid of the plastic bottle, which is
Hmm.
really cool, but you got rid of that water weight because there's a lot of water already mixed in. So you're condensing. So whenever it ships, it's shipping something this size versus this size. So kind of just those little things, and just like you said, being conscious of the fact that that spoon you used 20 years ago is still hanging around. So whenever
It
you go
shows
to
up.
make that choice, be like, okay, am I okay with the fact that, and sometimes you have to. Sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have another choice, and that's, you know, one thing. And like after storms, sometimes we don't have clean water. Luckily, we didn't lose water this time, but there's been
Mhm.
times where there's really bad floods. You don't have access. You don't have running water. There's no safe water, so you have to drink bottled water. But that's a different situation versus like every single day always using plastic bottled water. So, and a lot of times it
Yeah.
saves you money. A lot of times switching over, some people think it's more expensive, to be eco-friendly, and some products are marked up, or they're more expensive. But sometimes they're products that are better for you or they last longer. But a lot of times, if you're buying less and you're buying more locally, it ends up being more cost effective as well, which is great for you, you know, in your wallet. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I really try, and it's, and like you said, once you, like you said, Jess, once you get switched on, um, you're switched on. And I remember, you know, walking the beach and not seeing plastic, and then when I got involved in the movement, now every time I go to the beach, I'll find something to collect, and I tend to turn it into a bit of a game. I always find like bottle caps from soda bottles or water bottles. Or what's really popular here are glow sticks that are used in commercial fishing, to catch fish at night. And I understand that Bermudan fishermen don't do that practice by putting these glow sticks on the lines. But those glow sticks, just like what you'd use in a rave or a party, they've got the chemical that has it glow, but then they've got that little air bubble inside. And that's what keeps these glow sticks buoyant. So these things will just float around. I mean, you crack it, it glows, and then when you reel the lines in, if it's glowing or not, it's spent. So you just take it off the fishing line, and what happens, whether it's intentional or not, it ends up back in the ocean and then washes up on our beaches. So I remember like collecting them. I had like a bag in my garage full of these things. I got just under 100, and had to, you know, I put them in the trash. And so they went to the incinerator, which is probably not the best place for it to go. But based on our waste management system, that's it. I'm not going to bury them or burn. You know, they went to incineration. And that kind of speaks to Elizabeth's question. So, Elizabeth, if you're still on the live, and I hope you are, Let us know in the chat where you are tuning in from. Elizabeth's question is, what is the best way to dispose of old products with the beads or even old medicines? And I got asked this question quite a bit, to include things like old cans of spray paint, old cans of canned paint, old batteries. This can scale up to, an old product that might have expired but still usable, but not really good for the environment, to like turpentine and batteries and things like that. So, what I would say is, the best way would be, it depend on where you are in the world and what the best practices are in your region or on your island. And like I said, incineration, I don't wholeheartedly agree with, but that's what we have in place here. And our waste management system has a designated area on the side for those sort of products I mentioned a moment ago. So we've got spent air conditioners that still have Freon inside, or spent batteries. We have a battery program where they go to somewhere special. I'm not too sure where that is. Um, so yeah, just be a matter of reaching out and saying, look, you've got some old medication, old medicines, old products that may contain plastics. Reach out to your local waste management, I guess, municipality or government service, and ask them. Because here, I don't know the full stream insofar as what happens, Mr. Lightborn, to a battery, all this. Remember, I'll just illustrate this. We had, they were in offices around the island, these translucent blue tubes that we were encouraged to put our spent batteries in. So when I worked in insurance and as I go around the city, you'd see where people would, have batteries in the remote that have spent, and instead of throwing them in the trash can, which would then maybe ultimately be incinerated, we don't want to incinerate batteries. We put them in this blue tube. Now, I don't know what happened to that, the contents of these blue tubes. You'd call them when it was full, and they come and take it away. So, the optimist in me is like, oh, well, maybe they went to battery heaven, which is somewhere nice and safe, and they, something happened to the batteries that was, but then you're like, oh, well, really? Like, what happened? So it's a matter of, as a eco-conscious human, to maybe ask those questions that may or may not open up a can of worms for you. But yeah, that's something I think I'm going to make a note of, and reach out to our waste management leaders and just ask, what happens, because certainly we've got the Times Bay incinerator here on Bermuda's North Shore. We've got our landfill near the airport where we'd put like appliances, like dishwashers and cars and stuff. And then we've got different sewage outfalls around the island, or where the waste is treated, and yeah, different landfills. It's interesting when you really are put to task in figuring, okay, cool, I throw this bottle away, where does it actually go? And I remember, at one point, I don't know if we were doing it, but certainly other places were sending their trash to like China. Instead of, it's just getting sent literally away. And I watched a documentary recently that said like China stopped taking in other people's trash, but you've got impoverished countries like burning the plastic off of copper wire, and collecting the copper to make money and stuff. There's so many documentaries I've seen, whether it's many. I've got a library inside that speaks to all of this. It's, again, I try to stay as optimistic as I can, because I do think we do have the ability to figure this out and not ruin the environment. But yeah, Elizabeth, I hope we somewhat answered your question about the
So
best way. But
And
I
I
want
have,
this.
yeah, I have. So for medicines, especially here in the U.S., Elizabeth. So whenever you are disposing of medicines that are expired, or that you didn't need anymore, it's really important not to put those into the water system. So actually, one of the professors at A&M is doing a lot of really cool toxicology studies. So even the medicines that we put in our body doesn't metabolize all of that medicine. We're not that efficient of human beings. And so in our waste, it goes out and it goes into our waste treatment, and then that goes out into the water. But what waste treatment is there to remove solids. It's there to get rid of like harmful bacteria, but it doesn't have the capability to remove chemicals and certain medicines. So things as simple as like hormonal birth control, ibuprofen, antibiotics, those go into the water system just from when they leave our bodies. So if you are actually like dumping them, like some people will like put them down the toilet or something like that whenever they're dumping out their pills, make sure that you're not doing that. So because then you have these high concentrations of these medicines that are getting into the waters, and they're doing really cool studies on how this is affecting different fish in the ecosystem. And it's really, really interesting. So it's having serious consequences. So we have to think about it's one of those, just because we don't see it anymore doesn't mean it's gone. But what's great is a lot of here in the U.S., municipalities will have a lot of times the police station or the fire department will have like a drug drop-off day where you bring in your expired medicines, that type of thing, and they dispose of them properly. Also, a lot of drugstores in our area. I don't know if this is across the whole U.S., but here in Texas, like the big brand drugstores, they will have like in the pharmacy, they will have like a metal canister where you can go and put your medicines, and then that way they can be disposed of properly. That way they're not getting back into the water system. Also, I've seen in the drugstore, they've had like kits for, I don't think you can use it for all medicines, but certain medicines, it's something that you mix in and then it turns it into like I think it turns it into a solid, kind of like you can with like paints. So whenever you're disposing of paints, if you mix it in, they have some things that harden the paint where you could put cat litter in with it and mix it so it becomes a solid before you dispose of it. If you don't have a place where you can like drop your paints off. But yeah, for medicines, that is the best way to make sure that, so don't ever dump it down the drain, down the toilet, because that's going to get into, it doesn't get cleaned out whenever it goes through the waste management program. So it's going to go into wherever your water feeds into, whether that's the river or the bay or the ocean. So make sure that you think about that before you do that. So there's other ways to dispose of it, which is great. So, and then same thing, yeah, like we were talking about with paints, microbeads. I don't know for sure the best way, but I think keeping it contained, so keeping it in whatever container that it came in, if it was like a face scrub or something like that, instead of like what you would do if you wanted to recycle it, was just to clean it out and dump it down the drain, clean out the contents and the recycle the plastic bottle. I think you would keep it in the bottle, and put maybe even like tape it closed, and then put that in the trash. Unfortunately, because you can't recycle it because it has contents in it. But
Yeah.
then it's one of those like, which is better,
I
recycling the
know
outside plastic or not letting the microbeads get out.
that's how things turn out sometimes. You're
It's tough.
like,
It's a tough decision sometimes, but yeah.
yeah, you gotta kind of see what's available to you and make the best choice that you
Mhm.
can based on
Exactly.
what cards you're dealt, really. And like I said, we'll burn the plastics,
Yeah.
and that turns into energy and creates dioxins. But that's what we have in place right now, and fingers crossed that we replace our filters often to keep as many dioxins out of the environment as possible. But yeah, I was just, it's this has become so common. Like I just got my bamboo straw, one of a few that I rotate, and my reusable cups, and my it's pretty interesting. And my in my home, we don't, like, I lived in Toronto for a bit, and we'd separate everything. Even the organics had a little bin under the sink, and then the cardboard was something separate, the glass was something separate. So here I would just have a blue bin with a blue bag, and the tin aluminum cans and all the glass goes in there, and then I'll take that to Tynes Bay and put those the bags of the recycling on the side. And on the side they've got like an oil reserve. Yeah, because if you've just changed the oil in your car or your scooter, that's got to go somewhere special to get processed separately. And then the cans of paint and stuff, and then the recycling. So it's quite nice how they've got that all laid out. And then even when you're putting your sort of your household trash, they've got the different bins with different numbers, and things are separated, and then you put them in the right bin depending on what it is, and it'll get disposed of properly. But it's pretty interesting. It's definitely interesting. Again, looking at waste management holistically. So yeah. Those are the only questions that I see right now that are coming through. And I see Kuhn did jump in via YouTube, which is great. So it's nice to know that those comments are coming into the live. If anyone's still hanging out with us and you have any questions for Jess and I, please let them come through. If anything, just let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be great. But what I want to do as well is share my screen again, because trash-free seas was the first bit of our topic, and then diving against debris or aware week was the other piece. So I'm just going to carefully share my screen again. And what I want to do is highlight diveagainstdebris.org. So here, really speaking to the divers out there, you are able to use your skills and your investment in gear and training. I hear you. You stopped counting after 50,000, Jess. I don't know if that's true. An old accountant friend of mine told me that because we were adding up like how much we spent on diving. It adds up quite quickly, but I digress. Hit this website. You can see the URL there at the top, where you can use your kit and dive for trash that enters the ocean that does not float. So this website is really cool. It just explains what a dive against debris diver is, and I'm gonna let Jessica shed light on some courses that she's offering that should be available to students globally. But yeah, you've got prerequisites and why you should become a diver against debris diver, how to become a diving against debris diver, and what I want to share with my Bermudians in the house, and everyone really, but it's got this dive against debris map, a very interactive map that you can bring up at any time. And this shows the reported events that have happened in recent times, because we do like to report our stats. And what's also cool is, what was I looking for? I was looking for, they had the events. So I want to share with everyone that there is an event coming up that Guardians of the Reef are hosting on the 26th. And I'm not even sure where to find that now that I'm looking for it. But what I'll do is I'll dig around for that. And Jess, what are you working on? Yeah, and you're cool to talk about that, right?
Of course, of course. I'd love to.
Good.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So, like I said, we're kicking it off with the beach cleanup, which is beautifully timed with cleaning up after the storm here on Saturday, and then on Thursday we are going to be doing an online aware course where it is the aware specialty as well as the coral reef conservation, which is really cool because you don't have to be a scuba diver to take those. So you don't have to have a certification. It is a class only specialty through Patty, and it's really cool. You get to learn about being an aware diver. You get to learn about coral reef conservation, which is a huge passion of mine, and it's fun because we get to dig in a little bit past just the surface level and get into some of the really fun, interesting tidbits that I've learned over the last many years that I've been a marine biologist, and get to kind of show that to you and share that insight with you whenever it comes to coral reef conservation, which is super exciting. And so you get both of those classes at the same time on Thursday, and that is going to be online. And then, yeah, on the following weekends, the weekend that you're going to be doing your cleanup, I'm going to be doing an advanced class, but it's going to be an eco-focused advanced class where we're going to be getting those diving related specialties. So on top of your normal deep dive and navigation dive in advance, we're also going to be doing a dive against debris. We're going to be doing a fish ID, and we're going to be doing peak performance buoyancy for our 5 advanced dives that weekend. So super excited. They're all really fun specialties. They're really, really useful. The navigation ties right into the diving against debris, so you can plot out your plan whenever you're going out to do these dive against debris dives. The peak performance buoyancy is so important whenever it comes to layering on those skills. So getting your buoyancy really well under control and getting really comfortable with it. It's going to make you a better photographer. It'll be great when you're doing your fish identification dives, because you're going to be holding your slate, you're going to be doing your surveys. So get that neutral buoyancy locked down. It'll be great whenever you're picking up trash. So all of that it's really cool. I think it really ties together well, and it kind of makes you just overall a better, more eco-conscious diver whenever you have all of those skills in your toolbox. And what's cool is, for advanced, we do one dive from each of those specialties. But if any of those specialties pique your interest, you can always go and take the full specialty, and that dive that you've already done will count towards it. So that's really exciting. It's so much fun, and we're going to go out and have a great time, and it'll be a great way to wrap up Aware Week. But the great thing about the Aware program is we do it year round. So, like I said,
You're
my
right,
background is in
guys.
marine biology. Aware Week is fantastic, and it brings so much attention to the cool things. And getting more in tune with the ocean and the community, but the I teach aware specialties year round. You can always be an aware diver. And I pulled up my phone. So whenever you are doing the dive against debris dives, there's actually there it is. There's actually an app that Patty has. So specifically for whenever you're diving. So when we're doing our beach cleanup, we're going to be using a different app to report that because it's land-based trash. But whenever you are
Mhm.
doing a dive against debris dive, you can use the Aware app, and we can log that information. And so Patty's able to put that up onto the Aware site, and that information gets used. So they're specifically looking at what water or what trash is underwater. Which is a little bit different than the Clean Swell app, which is what we're going to be using that's through the Ocean Conservancy that we're going to be using for our trash cleanup. But it's really cool because they use that information to try to help make better policies whenever it comes to trying to reduce the amount of trash that's going to be in the ocean and in our coastal communities.
Well, I think being an aware diver is pretty dope. Definitely gives divers something to do, diving with a purpose, diving to save the environment. And yeah, everyone hit patty.com or Google Project Aware. Just trying to go back here. I mean, it's just so much dope information on how to participate in an event, how to um, meet other divers. There was something really cool I just saw about like meeting your tribe. It's just so amazing to come together as divers to unite for a really really amazing cause. Like Jess and I met on a lionfish culling expedition. And then, other than culling invasive species and picking up trash, there's so much citizen science you can do. I mean, just to expound on that, just a few years ago, Necton were here with Project Baseline, which is Global Underwater Explorers kind of entity. I think they're on their own now, but Project Baseline, essentially a technical diving team from GUE that travel around the world and do baseline benthic surveys of different areas around the globe. And they were here and they did a bunch of deep diving and doing sort of stereoscopic photogrammetry work and stuff like that. What's great is like you don't know what you don't know. And by these divers going down to depths that most divers can't dive to and grabbing this visual data, they're able to then put that into a database and then come back in a year, 2, 3, 5, do that same dive following those same coordinates, doing those same transects and seeing what's the coral doing now. Is it better? Is it worse? What's going on? But so without that baseline information, it's really challenging to figure what's actually going on. Certainly in shallow water, it's easy to see, for example, that we're losing our seagrass beds because we can just look and see it. But then what's happening in the deeper ocean? So whether you're sending humans down or ROVs or submersibles, it's important. There's so little we know about the ocean, and I think, Jess, I think we know more about the moon, or maybe even more about Mars than we actually know about what's going on in our deep blue backyard. So please, if you're tuned into the live or watching this on replay and you've been hanging out with us for the last hour and a half and you're thinking we figured it all out, no, like there's
Not even
so
close.
much we haven't figured out. So one of the projects I'm working on is called the 16 Fathoms Deep Sea Survey, where we send divers down at predetermined coordinates at 16 fathoms, which is 6 feet to a fathom, so just around 100 feet down, and do these benthic photogrammetry-esque stereoscopic surveys, picking up on what Project Baseline we're doing, but certainly not going to those deeper sites, and just collecting a database. I always thought that there was an entity, whether it was local or not, that was coming to Bermuda regularly every year or two to get that information. And then when you ask around, you discover no, like no one's actually doing that work, that particular work ongoing. So we're going to pick 16 sites along Bermuda's South Shore and just dive and collect that data, but do it dope, like broadcast live. You can track the boats live and see the dive teams and do the citizen side where local divers actually like basically sign up to join the expeditions. It's easy for Jess and I and a couple others to form a core team and do the diving, but it's great to also involve the wider community, because there's a lot of local divers around that are more than capable of participating. So that was going to be sort of that little mama's cooking, the little edge where we invite the wider community to do that. So I'm hoping to get a bit of funding to kick that off and see if we can dive 16 new reef sites along the South
Ooh,
Shore and
I'm
get that
signing
data.
up for that.
Yeah, 16fathoms.org. I've been working on it for about 4 years. National Geographic did jump on as a supporter. They sent us a little ROV, and yeah, it's one of those ideas I had that just needed a little bit more funding for it to be executed well, and I had to put it all on pause when we had the pandemic come around. So it's coming. Magic, I see you. I don't think I've really talked that much about 16 Fathoms in a while. I know when they sent the Trident ROV, like it was a really big kick in the pants to get it done, because they were actually calling me every 3 months, like, how's the project? And then it was also tied in with Project Baseline and the GUE team. So I had the project managers over there ringing me like, hey, you said you're doing this, get it done. Um, had some partners, some transport partners, some cylinder partners, gear partners, and I just, yeah, you know how these things go, right? I want to do it right and do it well, or don't do it at all. So just hopefully within the next, we might not be able to open it up to the whole whole community, which is one of the cornerstones of it, just with the pandemic kicking around. But definitely put eyes on 16 new spots and check things out. And Magic, you are involved without question. And if we can get Jessica over here to be dive leader, because we need certainly we got the teams all fleshed out. We had the structure, we had safety diver, dive leader, and then the actual scientist. So that would be you, Jess, and then safety diver. So yeah, we'll make it happen. We'll definitely make it happen. I mean, it's just giving the community something to do, something to be involved with, other than watching these, elite dive teams have all the fun. It's like we've got many citizen scientists and avid divers that are more than capable of diving down to 96 feet and doing a quick 18-minute survey or so, or whatever the MOD of air is at that depth. I don't know. I got my tables in front of me, Jess. I don't know what the
And that's a
bottom
great thing. I love
bottom
that.
time is.
Yeah, and I think getting the community involved is so awesome because you can accomplish a lot. So as long as like you're talking about, as long as your plan is really sound, it's you can replicate it, you have the funding, you have those sources. Like you were saying, there's plenty of recreational divers who are completely capable of doing that as long as you guys have like a standardized training and everyone's doing the same thing. I think it's so important because whenever you get the community involved, they get to take ownership. You get to
Right.
see what's down there. You get to see what's in your own backyard, and then they can share that with all the people. So if it's just an elite team of 4 divers doing every single dive, and we knock it out in a month, whatever, that's awesome. But we only have we can tell all the people in our circle about it and the people that whose lives we touch about it. But if you have an entire community getting involved with that, how many more people then does it spread
Oh
to?
yeah.
Because if you have 10 divers, 20 divers, 30 divers, it's all of their families, their friends. They're like, oh man, what were you doing last weekend? That looked really cool. And
Yeah.
it affects so many more people. And that's what I love about citizen science is as long as you have a strong groundwork and you make sure that you're figuring out like based off of like what level is needed, and you're doing the checks and balances
Mhm.
whenever it comes to depending what type of data that you're collecting. I think it's really cool to get that many people involved, because the more involved you are, the more you learn, the more you care about it, and who knows, some of those people might end up becoming experts in that field, or going down the more traditional scientific route. But even if they don't, you're getting so much more involvement and that community connection to the ocean, which is so important. And the ocean is not meant to be this elite thing that only the top scientists, the top divers have access to. The ocean's for everybody. So getting everyone out there and involved in a safe and smart way is so important. So
So
that's
so magic. I'm getting one of the soundboard things, right? Because an air horn would be so freaking appropriate right now. And I know I've seen other people on YouTube and stuff have these soundboards. You got the effects and stuff. Because
yes, get some
yeah,
sound
yeah,
effects.
we're gonna get some sound effects going next time, you guys. Got the
Can we get
mic.
some bubbles? Can we get the I'll just record myself breathing underwater and we can play that.
We're gonna do all of that. We're gonna do all of that. But yeah, Jess, I mean, it's that sort of like grounded me, like hearing you say that, like the ocean is not this um place that's only for the select few. And I'm certainly looking forward to a time where we'll craft this on our own, but a time to just do a bit of a deeper dive on that. Because I know so many divers around the region, certainly around the world. My friend Zandy in South Africa, that's doing a lot of work in just opening up the doors to people that feel like that door is not meant for me to go through. And again, speaking to that fear of the ocean, and if it's not a fear, it's a sense of, yeah, that's not for me. There's nothing for me there. And what that does cause ultimately is that ripple effect of just being excluded
Hmm.
from all kinds of opportunities, not just career and employment, but just experiences. I mentioned on another live, like people that won't get on boats because they don't know how to swim, or which means that they're not kayaking, they're not paddleboarding, they're not sailing, they're not going out on our Mariners Day. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But so much fun and exploration and wonder and joys to be had being in, on, and under the water that people have absolutely no desire to get into for one way or another. So certainly there's a growing groundswell. There's a growing movement of people that are putting themselves boldly out there to show, like, look, the door's wide open. My foot's wedged it open for you. Let's come through, check it out, put a mask on, put your head underwater. We can be in 3 feet of water if that's what you're comfortable with. Hopefully you're not afraid of the little crabs and shrimps and fish that'll come around because I try checking you out. It's just so dope, and it's why we do what we do. Is we fall in love with this. I mean, the planet's blue. You know, the ocean surrounds us all one way or another, and we've learned to fall in love with it, and then with that, protect it. So Jess is in the space. I'm in the space. We've got some people hanging out with us on the live. It's 10. No, I was gonna say 10:32 in Jessica's time.
Yep, got
10:32.
9:32,
Oh my
9:32.
dear. Well, it's 10. It's 11:32 in Bermuda. It's totally. I see 11 and I'm saying 10. I don't know what's wrong with my mind in that moment. I was just getting caught up. Um, what I want to say to everyone, live or on the replay, thank you so much for tuning into episode 7. Jess, it's time to wind this down. Typically, around this time, we'd be going into our after party, our after show, where I loosen up some of these buttons and talk off the cuff. But it has gotten late. Magic, are you still on the live with us, bro? If so, give me a thumbs up. Give me something. Um, But yeah, I think Aurora Week is going to be dope. I was trying to bring up the events thing because I did post a Guardians of the Reef event on the official Project Aware page, and so you're able to just see what's going on there. But not that doesn't get as much traction as Facebook, so I'm going to stand up an event on Facebook. Jess, we adore you over here. So if there's links that you can share where
Yes, I'll get those to you.
yeah, people in Bermuda can participate in your online classes. I want to be in your class, and I want to support you and all the work that you do. So yeah, get the links out. I
Absolutely.
think I've done the courses already, so we'll find out how Patty reacts when I go to do them again with another
This
instructor.
guy, he's showing up
Like,
again.
who is this guy? Like, what
I'll
is
just get a gold star next to my instructor card. They're like, man, people are taking these classes multiple times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're doing it again and again because,
Hey, man, never
it's
stop learning. Never
never stop
stop
learning.
learning.
And you give 10 people the same curriculum, you'll probably get 10 completely different methods and of teaching and the vibe, right? So I'm curious to see your vibe. How do you move forward? How do you maneuver through all the material? And like I said, every time you and I have a conversation, I always learn something new, which is why I enjoy having you here, as always, from the beginning. Even on the boat, we didn't talk that much on the fling, but it was a really, really awesome experience. I'm
It
glad we
was
have
an
this
awesome time.
connection. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm looking forward to the next 3 episodes. We can wind this down only to rest, recharge, recalibrate, and come back out even stronger. And yeah, just exciting times around here. You know what? Um, you see me, you see me on here. It's late. I'm smiling. I'm very, very happy right now just to be here with all of you guys. But there's a lot going on this little island, so certainly prayers and thoughts going out to everyone that's dealing with managing day to day. If anybody knows how rough it is me. It's quite hairy out here. But I wake up every morning and I'm just trying to be the best I can be and be as excellent as I can be. And I just look so forward to these evenings, these Wednesday nights, being here with you guys, and putting on my college shirt and being all ready to see who jumps on the live, and then checking out the analytics to see who jumps on the replay, because that's just as cool too.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much
So,
for doing this, Weldon, and thanks for
hey,
creating
my
this
pleasure, man.
space. This is so cool. I love that because you're doing this, we're able to connect with people all over the world and get to share our love of diving with in the ocean with other people. So thank you for
It is too.
creating this space and welcoming me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, look, I've said this before, probably offline, but certainly I would be doing the same for the live with Jessica Lee show. So I'd love to be one of the first to encourage you to jump on and start your own show. Certainly, the world needs more people like us out there putting out this information. Um, it just has to be, the message has to be spread far and wide. So I know Magic and JD and I will be locked in every time you decide to do it. So I'm here to support you as you've supported me going forward. It's just a wonderful time to be alive and using this wonderful resource that we all now know as the internet. Where when I was growing up, I had dial up. I had no internet. Born in 1978, no internet, and then in 1994, 1995, Internet Bermuda Limited came here, and we got dial up. Where when my grandmother would pick up the phone, I'd get disconnected, where now it's like the internet is I think, like, if you had to choose between, and let's say you could fraction these, electricity, well, just like running water or internet, I'd choose internet. Yeah, I was gonna say electricity and internet, but that kind of doesn't make sense. But yeah, internet, please. I'll find water. I'll use the bucket and dip out the tank and whatever. Um, but yeah, we expect when we turn on our phones or our tablets, our computers, our notebooks, laptops, that the internet is up and it's working. It's so amazing to have been born in that era of like cassette tapes, no internet, pagers. Oh, it's crazy. Little nostalgic on you guys. Jess, any last words for our viewership before we go?
Just to get out there, we'll share the links for the conservation finder, so you guys can find some cool aware events. And again, not all of them are just for divers, so the beach cleanups are for everyone. the aware and the
Great point.
coral reef
Great point.
conservation classes for everyone. It's not just for divers. And then there are a lot of really cool dive specific events going on, underwater cleanups, different specialties, dive classes, the advanced class. So get out there, be active in your community, sign up, go meet some new people. If you're in a place where you can't get out in person, sign up for one of those online classes, and just get involved. It's amazing what happens whenever you start that and you start meeting people and they pull you further down that line into ocean conservation and getting out there, and it's really awesome. You never know where it's going to take you. So just get out there, sign up. And thank you guys so much for tuning in with us and for listening to us talk about what we love. So it's it's a really cool time.
I'm scrambling to find something before I go. It is. Hold on, hold on. Give me 1 second, you guys. I got an email from the wonderful people at Break Free from Plastic.
Ooh.
Um, and in that email, it said that an Emmy nominated documentary that takes a sweeping look at the man made crisis of plastic pollution is available for view on YouTube for free until the end of the month. And I've just found it. And yeah, hit YouTube and in the search bar, just type in the story of plastic. It is really interesting. I did skim through it. I also think I used my premium to download it to watch it offline on the big screen. Um, yeah, powerful stuff. Let me just share. This isn't going to be super smooth, but yeah, this is how it starts out. The future of plastics is in the trash can. That's interesting. So yeah, it's on Discovery, the official Discovery YouTube channel. They've got almost 5 million subscribers, and this video has been up not long, and many views. But yeah, I recommend watching this. What I wanted to do, Jess, is stand up a Facebook watch party.
Ooh, that could be
Um,
fun.
and I see people doing it, and then when I try to do it, um, it had to be like in a group. And I've got I don't have a Facebook group necessarily that has a large following. I have a page and I have a profile. So when you guys start dabbling into different things, like to have an Instagram business account, you need to have it attached to a Facebook business. So then I had to port my profile into a business account. So then I've got the two, and it got complicated. But then having the watch party, I think I'd end up using watchparty.me and then putting the link in and then sharing that out so that we can all watch the same YouTube video together and be able to have dialogue amongst each other as we watch. So stand by for a watch party, um, because certainly this is not the platform to do that. It's just not smooth. But what I'm going to do is pause this when the background comes into focus. That's all trash, you guys. And I don't know if you can hear the audio, but
It's not coming through on my end.
okay. The visuals were interesting. Ah, so much trash, like almost as far as the eye can see. So, as far as like something to do, if you've got an hour and 23 minutes to spare, look up the story of plastic and watch a documentary. What we'll probably do is make that homework. We're giving people homework, Jess.
Oh, watch out.
We're
It's getting
giving you
serious.
homework. So, yeah, before the end, and I'm going to make a post about this and everything, before we meet next week, and let's get serious real quick, Jess. So, next Wednesday will be the 22nd. That would be where we'll be into Aware Week at that point. It will be wonderful to have just have our conversation be a bit of a debrief about our thoughts about this particular documentary, and I'll also give myself a bit of homework and talk about the findings. I'll do a little bit of digging and see where do our batteries go. I should be able to get an
Yeah.
answer on that quite quickly. What happens to our spent batteries? You know, where do they go? What really happens? All right. So I'll flesh that out and see if our viewership want to watch the story of plastic. I'll figure out how to do the watch party. And yeah, watch the documentary, you guys. Take notes, and we will talk about this next week. Trash free seas, diving against debris, Aware Week 2021, and the story of plastic full documentary that's only available for free until the end of the month. So all this is all coming together. It's pretty dope. Very timely, it seems, Jess. I
It's
got this
amazing how it
email.
works out.
I got this email today. And I was like, oh, let me talk about that on the live. And here we are talking about it. Family, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. All the engagement helps. Just watching this and hanging out with us and all of your questions. I hope we answered everything as best as we could. Shout out to Magic, Jessica, Shanae, and Elizabeth, and Antoine that jumped on. And if you hit me up on WhatsApp, I don't have that up right now. It's too much going on for me tonight. I thought I'd keep it simple. Jessica Lee, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time, energy, attention, tenacity, passion. Send me those links so that I can share them out to my
Yeah,
following so that we can
absolutely.
fill up your class. You might need that platinum Zoom account, um, to get all these guys in this class and learn some cool, dope stuff that applies to anywhere. And again, just what you mentioned as well is like, it's like a lot of this information is relevant and open to everyone, not just
Yeah, not just
people
divers.
that scuba dive. Yeah,
And we
cool.
might even be able to turn you into scuba divers. Get a
That's
little
really the,
taste of
that's really the
Kool-Aid.
ultimate. Hey, that's really the ultimate outcome. Like. And I still got that 15% off promo code that I got from Patty.
Oh,
If you're interested
right.
in doing the e-learning for your open water diver, that's only valid until the end of the month. And I think I've only had 2 people jump on that deal.
Oh man, you
Um,
guys gotta jump on that. That's a
I
great
know,
deal.
I know. But now, like I said, we're going through that fourth wave, and like getting like the
But
dive shops
just
are
because you get your e-learning doesn't mean that you have to sign up right away. You can go ahead and do your e-learning,
great
and that
point.
way you're ready to whenever you're ready to start doing your open water stuff, you're done, you've done your homework. So
How do I?
get your e-learning done early, and
I mean,
then you
that's
can
why
go.
I wanted to make you bigger to like point and say that's why you're the instructor, and I'm
That is
just
why I'm the instructor.
that's why Jess is the instructor. You can do the e-learning and knock out the practical whenever. Um, so yeah, I need to push it out more and let more people know
And
about
it's great.
the.
Once you have that e-learning, it's yours for forever. So you can go back and look at it again anytime that you need to refresh the brain on if you have anything like that. So you can take your time, go through all the modules. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, Jess and other Patty pros out there. I mean, it's funny if you look up my record. Yeah, I think I did a big push in like 2010. I think that's when I went to Mexico like 4 or 5 times, and I leveled. I did a bunch of specialties, and then I went DR,
Ooh,
did a
I have to spy
specialty.
on you.
Yeah, one of my buddies, shout out to Andrew DeMello. I needed my transcript from Patty printed before I got them for the fling. For the fling,
Oh, okay.
they wanted my travel insurance.
Hmm.
They wanted a bunch of stuff. You remember, like I remember getting on deck and you had the guy there that's like, "Show me your papers," and I was like,
Hmm.
"Well, if you come up short, like, what do we do? Like, are you gonna like kick us off the boat? We're already
You're
on."
stuck with the mosquitoes until we
Yeah, we're
come
just
back.
stuck with the mosquitoes. So I remember like I had my petty transcript, my diving insurance. Um yeah, because I didn't want to bring all my cards, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, who can I call to just print off my transcript, sign off so that I can present this to somebody in a really cool way? And I remember Andrew looking me up and he was like, wow, like it's like, okay, and it's crazy because all that's just in your record. It's like school, you just see like the date and your instructor and their instructor ID and the course you took. And I went on this big blitz. I don't know if you've seen it, Jess, but all my C cards, I've had it framed and
I
it's up in my,
saw
my
that. I
grandma's
was
house.
so
Yeah.
jealous. I love that
And then
idea. It's fantastic.
yeah, and behind me, I've got the 2 cards I did. with another instructor just recently. She did the online bits, and I got those cards to add, plus another card I did. And now Bermuda, which is pretty dope. And I don't know if we can take advantage of this when you do come. I hope so. As we've got some patty specific to Bermuda specialties. We've
Oh,
got
I
the
would
the
love that.
lionfish color one, and then there's
Yes.
another one. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And they're like, well, maybe, they're like, you know everything already. I'm like, no, no. I always learn something new. Again, the instructor matters, and there's nobody knows everything. And I'd love to do that, the localized. Like, I didn't even know Patty did that for a long time until a
Yeah,
few
I
years ago. They
love
were
the
like
distinctive
the
specialties.
distinctive special.
I
That's
have
why
some
Jess is
ideas
the
for some
instructor.
distinctive specialties. They're
This
cooking up here, so stay
distinctive
tuned.
specialties. I have no idea how they're crafted, and that's what makes you a pro and me not. But it's wonderful to tap into that. And I think like the latest thing that I thought was pretty dope is, well, seeing Patty. Shout out to Patty. Is their how they embraced free diving. That was a really dope thing to be a part of, because when I cut my teeth in the industry, scuba divers and free divers, it was quite siloed, and you were either one or the other. And then when Patty embraced free diving, that was quite cool. And seeing a free diver on Scuba Magazine was also quite interesting, kind of tongue in cheek thing. But then the mermaiding, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Patty kind of leaning into that too. And
Hmm.
because I see that on social, and this is all shout out to all the social media platforms. It's certainly given a window into this world of mermaiding. You got professional mermaids
Hmm.
with the really cool fancy tails, and they're putting on a show. And I've seen it here. It was great what Kyla Smith was doing at the aquarium, and what Julia Frith was doing as well. And I think Emily Andrew does it now too. So, yeah, Bermuda's got its fair share of mermaids, and to have a course that does a deeper dive into it is really, really dope. Shout out to all the mermaids. I'll add that into my monologue. Yeah. Divers, instructors, educators, explorers, innovators, mermaids. Yeah.
I need to get that specialty so I can make it official. I've always been a mermaid, but not
I
actually with the
know.
tail. But
You
I've always
need
been I've always been a mermaid. I just need the card to prove it.
you need the official seal. That would be cool. I'll try
Right.
to find those pictures of when we were with Katie was her name. Yeah. So cool seeing her on the Netflix show. Yeah, she
What's
was
the name of
scary.
the show? Do you remember? I need to talk to you about freediving instructors too. I finally am interested in edging my toe across that line into freediving. So you'll have to give
Yes.
me some info on that.
We'll talk about that as soon as I get this out there. As far as I can tell, it's called The Haunting of Hill House. It's a TV miniseries from 2018. It ran for one season. And yeah, Katie played the role of Poppy. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Is that her? Hold on. Let me do this here. Let me do this here. Add the stream. So this is the. I think we've gone into the after show,
I was about to say that. I was like, here we are. We're in the after show.
because we're not talking. We're kind of talking about diving, but so I believe it's this, The Haunting of Hill House.
But she's not wearing the mermaid tail in this.
No, 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 no,
Okay,
no,
this is
no,
just
no.
another show that she. I was talking about what show she was wore the mermaid tail in.
Well, I'm trying to show you the Netflix thing
Oh,
where it. So that's not her. She's not in the Seymour cast in details. Yeah, she played Poppy. Let me. The Haunting of Hill House. Okay, whatever. So, Kalila Robinson, Bermudian Kalila Robinson, was the principal, I guess, DP and principal photographer, creator of that um, that movie with Jason Eddy. Shout out to Jason. Jason's sister. Um, there's a big deal. Melanie Eddy just crafted some jewelry. Sotheby's is involved.
Wow.
It's like huge. So shout out to Melanie. But I worked with her brother Jace, who's a phenomenal actor. So he was the primary character. He was the priest that had
How cool.
survived the shipwreck, and he washes up onto a strip of Warwick Long Bay at like 6 a.m. I know because I was there in my scuba regalia in case something happened to him. And yeah, we shot some sequences with Jace there, and Katie. We did some in pool work. We did some shooting at Church Bay. We also did some shooting at Admiralty Park. I think it's safe to say to the viewership that because some people might be like, well, why'd you fly in this actress or whatever? I don't know. Maybe people would feel that way. Maybe they wouldn't. But we're talking about a mermaid, and mermaids, as far as the creative director perceived it to be, are topless. So yeah, Kalila had to find an actress that was okay to be topless for about 80% of the shooting, and boom, we got to work with Katie, who was okay to be a full fledged mermaid, and yeah, fun shoot. Very very respectful, obviously, but we had a really wonderful time getting all the shots of her swimming over some of the boilers at Church Bay, and I remember having Jace who had to get naked as well at some point as they swam off into the sunset over some of the boilers and stuff. So I was down on the bottom with the DP getting those shots with like safety kayaks and everything.
Oh,
It
cool.
was well. That's a whole nother. I think I told most of the story, but that was a really cool experience. But working as lead safety for Discovery Channel was also an interesting story. And working with another production company who did sort of a hunt for this sea monster. So we
Oh,
did a simulated cave dive
did you
in
find the sea monster?
in our minds, yeah, in our imagination, we did find the Luska. Um, but yeah, we got permission to create a simulated cave dive in one of our main caves here in Bermuda, and I learned that day why the cave divers themselves, the men that do this regularly, all declined to be safety diver on this production, and yeah, that's because the actors didn't listen to the lead safety and kind of did their own thing in the cave. So it was turned quite hairy quite fast, and we had to cut the shoot short a little bit just because we were supposed to stay in the light zone. We were supposed to stay in the cavern zone. The actors did not stay in the light zone. They went further. Magic, if you're still on live, those divers went further than they should have. And yeah, I was like, why aren't these guys listening to me? And fortunately, I ran two guidelines out of the cave with glow sticks and the whole 9 yards because I had a weird feeling. Not that, and our comms masks. So we had the full face communication masks. The Tony, he was the DP. His mask failed. So where I would communicate with Tony and Tony would communicate with the actors, that failed. So crazy, crazy. The things I've done, the things I've seen in this journey, wild business. Jess, we are officially ending our longest
You're
live.
pumpkin. You're gonna turn into a pumpkin here.
Hey, I'm about to turn into that pumpkin. Magic. Real quick, but before I wrap cutie TBI ad and get to bed. Um, so yeah, imagine the Walsingham main cave, right? The main cave. You go down, and it's got the stairs and the deck. Full production crew. We met at Tom Moore's Tavern. Um, Probably 3 vans, 2 trucks, full production. Film crew had the Scorpion backpacks with the cameras and stuff. Tony, love Tony. He was the principal for DP. I don't even know what it stands for now. It's late. Forgive me. 4 actors: Tony, myself, the studio owner, the grips, everything. And yeah, we went in the cave to do a simulated cave dive. And I jump in the cave first. I lay my lines, but I say all that to say the moment I jumped in the Walsingham main cave on scuba, the first and only time I've ever gone into any Bermuda cave on scuba because it's forbidden unless you get like blessed by like a few different people. But Mr. Summers and the trust blessed the production company to have myself and the others on scuba. Um, I looked down and I found this ring. This ring was on the bottom of the rocks, right where I was standing. I shined my light down because I had like four lights, and I found this ring. So my when I tell that story, my friends tell me that I'm married to the main cave. So I married you guys to the main cave at the Walsingham Nature Reserve due to my experience of having to guide these divers and keep them to the best of my ability out of the dark and in the light zone. And I don't remember his name. I think it might have been Mo. Mo was a diver. I hope I don't get him or anybody else in trouble. But Mo was a diver that just went a little bit too far into the darkness. And we did get his attention doing the big circle with the lights, and he did turn around and come back into the light zone. So it all worked out quite well. The comms masks failing was a big thing. But we did, went over the top with the safety, had the glow sticks, had the backup lights, um, had an ROV, and we had the glow stick. So it all worked out pretty well. But every time I look at my right hand, my middle finger on my right hand, this reminds me of that cave and that experience. And this reminds me of an expedition in Mexico when I almost stepped on the deadly snake in the Yucatan. So I picked this ring up on my way back from Mexico in New York, and I put this on my left middle finger. It's titanium, tungsten carbide. This reminds me of the day I almost died. This reminds me of the day I almost died. So
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
I don't know. It's a thing. It's a thing. I don't know. But balance, if you're into the whole crystals, stones, zodiac thing, yeah, the middle fingers is for balance. And yeah, they're diving. But this one was pretty cool to find. And it wasn't anyone from the production company, because I was the first in the water. No one else was in to have lost the jewelry. And it's quite a big ring too. So I was like, okay, I'll keep that. Thank you so much. And that's all the stars I got for you guys. I'm going to run the TBI ad. Jess Lee, thank you so much for your time. Shout out to our viewership. Magic, you are a champ. Thank you so much for staying on. It's 12 o'clock, you guys. It is Thursday.
We're shutting this place down.
This is it. I'm going to get that sound effects board, Magic, if you can help me with that. I don't need the big deck, just the USB deck with like the 8 buttons. I'll see what B and H have. But I need air horn. I need some different things on there because Jess is dope and we need sound effects. And I need to be able to
goals now.
I need to
See
be able
how
to
many
play.
times.
I know I need to play background music as well. I've got some epidemic sound, some royalty, some non-copyright music that we can kind
I
of have
love
running
your
in the
intro
background.
song. It gets stuck in my head all the time. It's my jam.
That song, yeah, I'm not going to share the genesis of that song, but I heard it on another channel and I fell in love with it. And I think I get copyright strikes for it. So I'll sort that out. Don't worry. But it is a really cool indie track that I love. We will have a new song for season 2. So if you like that homeless soul track, just look it up on YouTube. It's a really fun, and when you listen to it on like headphones with good bass, the rolling bass, it's dope. It's a really really cool song. I
Oh, I'll
listen to
definitely
it
have to.
all the
I'm all
time.
about bass. I'm all about the
Yeah,
bass. So
bass is cool. I love it. So everyone, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week. Happy Thursday if you're in ADT, the ADT time zone. Yeah, Jess, this was dope. And we're going to do it all again next week. All goes well, fingers crossed. Remember, everyone, homework is to watch that Story of Plastic documentary. I'll share all this on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other platforms. Give it a watch. You'll learn something. And next week, we'll share all of our thoughts about the film, as well as anything else we've learned throughout the week as we do a deeper dive into Trash Free Seas, Diving Against Debris, and Aware Week 2021. Jess, I think that's it. Jess is like,
good night, y'all.
good night. Take care, you guys. Peace. So I got a message on social media letting me know that there was some debris here at Admiralty Park Beach. So I stood up an event on Facebook, invited a bunch of friends to meet me here after work, and we dove for debris. I mean, the ocean connects us all. To me, it's one big blue ocean. Ultimately, if I throw a piece of trash or a piece of trash ends up in the ocean, it could float anywhere. And in fact, most of the debris that washes up in Bermuda is long-range foreign trash that has come from anywhere as far as West Africa or even Japan. Everything just swirls around and ends up on our shores. So we're all connected, whether we recognize it or not. Documenting all the work that we do is very, very important. And taking photographs and shooting video and even going live during these exercises is such a phenomenal thing because it opens up to the world the effort that we're doing. And in fact, most of the time we catalog the debris that we catch and put that into an online database. And just TBI facilitates all of that, whether it's going live on site, taking photographs and creating an album on Facebook, or posting all of our photographs to Instagram. It's just valuable, and having the internet opens up what we're doing to the world. My name is Weldon Wade. I'm a diver, educator, and advocate for ocean sustainability.